Well, you may not want to hear this, but studies show this Sunday, January 19th of this year, is the day that most people will be giving up on those New Year's fitness goals. So sports psychologist Dr. Eddie O'Connor here to tell us how to stay on track, preparing for Resolution Quit Day. Every year, there's an analysis of what day people will quit. This year, it just has to be on Sunday, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad, but overall pretty realistic. We have these goals, and we need to remind ourselves, the first tip, remind yourself why you set these goals in the first place, right?
Well, it always starts off there. I mean, I think this is popular every time. Usually we talk about it just beforehand, New Year's resolutions,
right.
And studies have long shown that by February most people have quit. I think it's about 80%.
Okay.
So we're actually moving this up for the fitness one specifically. And I think the major reason is what's so magical about doing it on the first?
Right.
And,
right.
you know, do we have to and is it forced? So what do you tap into personally that's really, really meaningful for you? And then you have to really go back to it as it gets difficult. Keep going back and reminding yourself, well, what was the reason that I started to do it
right.
when it becomes difficult?
Right.
Because that's when we quit.
Right, and another good thing, it is harder to do it when you do it by yourself. So if at all possible,
Yeah.
don't do it alone.
Yeah, and again, that has been shown. Not only are you more accountable and responsible, but you tend to go further and work harder. So this whole idea about doing it in a social aspect is incredibly helpful, and we can sometimes minimize that too much. I've got the strength, I want to do it on my own.
Sure.
But really, if you get that social support, it makes a tremendous, tangible difference.
Sure. Okay, we had this great idea on New Year's Day. I was going to work out 6 days a week. Adjust it. Be realistic. Maybe curb it back. Maybe speed it up. Adjust what part of it is and is not working. Correct?
Yeah, and I mean, aren't we all guilty of this? You know, gosh,
Sure.
I had 2 cookies, so I ate the whole bag.
Right. I mean, might as well just eat the whole bag and just give it up for 5 years.
Every calorie counts. Every day that you do it counts. And so, you know, this all or none thinking that we tend to fall into,
yes.
which is why so many resolutions are dropped. You're excited for 2 weeks, and then you forget about it for 11 months. So you really don't want to do it in that way. If you're finding out that you were too aggressive, it's a little bit too hard, hey, keep that idea in mind of why you were doing it in the first place. How close to it can you get, and reward yourself for that.
Yeah, I didn't realize I had to work this year. I thought I was going to be able to work out all day. Appreciate how hard it is. It's hard. There's a reason why you get this, here we go, January 1st. It is hard. If it was easy, everyone would do it all the time.
Yeah. And this is the crux of what I do with my athletes in my office every single day, and we've talked about it a lot. It's real easy to set goals about losing weight, achieving this. And actually, our motivation goes down when we think about those goals because we get this response as if we've already gotten it.
Right.
You really want to be concentrating on what are the goals I want to set about pain tolerance or frustration or how hard it's going to be, and really see that difficulty as a sign that you're moving towards your goals.
Right.
When you change that relationship and become more willing to suffer in service of what you're trying to accomplish, your chances of success go way, way up.
I'm going to take a little side note before we get to that fifth one, because we have a little extra time. What's your opinion of constantly checking the scale, constantly checking your belt size, constantly, oh, well, for example, my dad years ago, he went on this carb diet. He went like 4 days. Oh, I didn't lose a pound, so I quit. You know, little things like that. I mean, talk about your personal opinion of how often we should look for results or not, or just let it go for maybe a week or two at a time.
Yeah, well, the traditional answer in psychology to everything is, well, it depends. But here's what it depends on, is we know in the research that self-monitoring absolutely improves performance and accountability. But what are you going to track? So if you're trying to lose weight, it may not be the number because your body is going to shift.
Bingo.
So you really have to kind of look at, maybe I could be tracking though how often in the process of what I'm doing. So that would be a good aspect of it, process over outcome. But I really do think that having some accountability and staying on charge of it, so monitoring it in some way, is very helpful. But you just have to be sure to track the right thing.
Track the right thing. And last but not least, if it doesn't work out, start again. Keep starting again all year long. Hey, I had a bad week. For example, I started a new regimen. I got a head cold 3 days ago. I had to shut it down. As soon as my head cold's gone, I'm going to fire back up again. It's just what you do. Things get in life gets in the way. You got to put it aside and get back to it eventually. Yeah,
and these are a lot of suggestions. There's tons out there. This was my favorite of the 5 that we picked. And it really goes back to actually when we start to look at alcoholics and getting sober, they actually had to build relapse into the model of recovery. Wow. So much so that you're like, oh, I relapsed and that's terrible. But we actually realize that that's actually a part of growth. It's sort of like failure is a part of success.
Yep.
And so when you're thinking about your New Year's resolutions in this way too, expect that there'll be a day that you slip. It's not over. You get an opportunity the next day.
Right.
So get it in your head as of January 1 or for this weekend as you're moving on. Expect the failure. If already stopped, you're saved. And then just start again, because every day matters.
It really does. Good stuff. Where do people track you down, Eddie?
DrEddieO'Connor.com. I've got a lot of stuff on social media. My YouTube channel's got free 1-minute videos for mental toughness. I would love to help people out.
Always good stuff. Thanks, Eddie.
My pleasure.